Hi, welcome to the Online Jewelry Academy. I'm Professor John R. and I'm your instructor. In this video, I'm going to answer 3 questions that you, the viewers, have written in to ask. Now, the first thing that I'm going to address is how the Step-Bezel works. Now, I've shown you in the previous videos how to work with Step-Bezel material, but we didn't really apply it to anything. So we're going to do that. The second thing that we're going to do is many of you have written in asking about homemade flux. So we're going to do a soldering project using a very primitive homemade flux. And finally, I'm going to conclude the video answering the third question that you guys wrote in with, which was, how do I test a stone in a bezel without the stone getting stuck? Okay, so let's take a look first at the Step-Bezel. Now over here I've drawn a little diagram for you, and you can see how I've got a cutaway view of a ring where here's one side of the Step-Bezel and here's the other, and there's that little step on the inside of that bezel wire where our cabochon stone sits on top of. So the step creates a seat for the stone. And if you look, the ring touches the bezel wire in 2 spots, and it has a curve that goes up slightly into the Step-Bezel without really affecting that stone. In other words, the curve of a ring or a bracelet can come in just slightly inside a Step-Bezel without making that stone pop up or rock in place. All right, so if you look right here, you can see that this is a split shank ring that I made in a previous video. So if you want to learn how to make a split shank ring, you can look for that video as well. And in this case, the top of the ring is just soldered directly onto that split shank ring. Now, if you look over here, I have a Step-Bezel that I've already made, and another split shank ring, as well as the stone that will go into the bezel. Now, if I pop this stone just into that bezel quickly and push it down, and remember, with the Step-Bezel, the back is open, so it's really easy to push a stone out if you have a Step-Bezel, and that will lighten everything up too. All right, so now if I attach the ring, you can see where if I push this ring against that bezel, the ring doesn't affect the stone. It's not pushing it up out of the bezel cup at all. So we're going to assemble that over here, and we're going to use, like I said, a very primitive homemade flux. And what this is boric acid with a little bit of denatured alcohol in it. You want to make it sort of a loose slurry. By the way, the boric acid can be found at any pharmacy, but you may have to look in a creative place like the foot care aisle. All right, and when I get this all assembled, I'm going to show you how to test your stone in the bezel. Okay, let me clear some things away and I'll be back to solder. Now, before you begin working, safety first. Remember, put on your eye protection. You don't want anything potentially popping into your eyes, and make sure you're working with good ventilation. And the OJA has a video on how to make a simple ventilation system for your bench. All right, so I've got the ring and the bezel sitting on top of the charcoal. Now what I need to do is set it up to be in place for soldering. And what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to pick up the bezel with tweezers, and I want to submerge it in this slurry of boric acid and denatured alcohol. And then I'm just going to place it on top of the charcoal block. Then what I want to do is I'm going to pick up the split shank ring and submerge it in the slurry. Now, if your slurry isn't to a depth that you can completely submerge it, just move it around and just make sure that it gets completely coated. Okay, so now that I've got it coated, I want to position it so that it will be in place, the proper place for soldering. So you can just use your tweezers if you need to move it around and make sure that you have it properly centered. I like to double check by looking at it from several angles. All right, so once you have the project set up, close your container that has the denatured alcohol in it. You don't want to light that on fire. Then you need to ignite this. And I'm just going to turn on my torch and just ignite it and allow the alcohol to burn away. Now this is great because this will completely coat the ring and allow that ring to be covered by the flux so that it protects it from having more oxide develop on the surface than I would like, and it will also work as the flux that allows the solder to flow. Okay, so now that everything's nice and dry, I can pick up my solder pallions and position them. Let me just wipe off some of the flux from the tweezers. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to put pallions, you know what, I'm going to put them on the inside so that I can actually heat from the outside and draw the pallions or draw the solder underneath the ring. That way I make sure I have a good bond. Okay, I have my solder pallions in place now. Now, what you didn't see in the cutaway was I used the tweezers to dip the pallions back into the slurry to get them a little wet so that it would kind of melt the dried out flux that was already on the ring and just slip them into place. But now they're all there and we're ready to begin soldering. So what you want to do is just turn on your torch and heat the piece slowly so that the flux begins to melt and coat the piece. And then you just carry on as usual. Okay, we're done with the soldering. Now, don't burn yourself. Be careful picking up your work and quenching it. And there we have the bezel attached to the split shank ring. So I'm going to drop this in the pickle pot and then I'll come back and show you how to test the stone in the bezel. Okay, the ring is out of the pickle pot and it's brass brushed and clean enough to show you. So what we've accomplished is I've soldered the split shank ring to the step bezel, and if you look inside of this ring, you can see how the top curve of the ring is lower than the step, which will create the seat for the cabochon stone that's going to sit inside of it. And to prove it, all I have to do is take the stone and put it in, and you can see it sits just right without any problem. Okay, so let's address that last question that everybody had, which was, how do I test the stone in the bezel without it getting stuck? Okay, well, if this was a bezel cup, meaning that it had a full backing plate, I might have problems getting the stone out. Sure, I could take a wax stick, perhaps, and just put the wax, the sticky wax against the top surface of the stone and pull it out, but sometimes that doesn't work very well. So let me show you a couple of things to bear in mind when you're working with bezels. So the beauty of this, again, is the fact that the back is open. This allows me to just use my finger and I push the stone right out and it's loose and I can, continue to work with the ring. You can do the same thing with a bezel cup that you've either purchased or one that you've made. All you have to do is really just drill a hole through it. A hole that's large enough to put something that's rigid up through that hole so that it can help to push the stone out of the bezel. And if you've been watching other OJA videos, you know that you can make those holes beautiful. You could cut out anything that you like if you're really skillful with your jeweler's saw. But here's a quick solution that a lot of jewelers use. Dental floss. All you have to do is just take a short length of dental floss and you would lay it across your bezel and then just push your stone in to test. And you can see this is a really super thin dental floss. It doesn't do anything. I mean, it doesn't get in the way. It allows me to see how nice the stone's going to look in the ring. And if I want to get it out, I can just grab both ends of the dental floss, pull. It's that easy. The stone is released with just a simple tug. Now, of course, you would only do this if you were going to preview this ring for maybe your client or a quick Instagram snap. But the ring would now be able to be completely polished inside and out, making it shiny and wonderful. And then you'd put the stone back in and do the final setting. And we have a video on how to set a stone in a bezel. I hope you liked this quick tip. There are plenty of more videos like this one on our website at onlinejewelryacademy.com, and you can find the complete playlist here on YouTube as well. Subscribers to the site get weekly notifications of new videos, and we constantly post new things on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you're interested in supporting the production of new videos, you can support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/onlinejewelryacademy. Thanks for watching.